Sam here from Web Contempo, and we're going to be talking about one of my favorite plugins today. Now, I want to show you guys this because it's really kind of a simple plugin at heart, but it can do a lot of interesting things. And this is actually, you probably wouldn't guess it, but one of the plugins I use more than any other plugin. So almost every site I do, I seem to have a use for this plugin in one way or another. So it's a free plugin, totally free, and I'm going to show you a few different creative ways you can use this to save you a bunch of time and hassle on your website projects. So if you guys are ready, let's get going. Alright, thanks for sticking with me. So I've got a dev site set up here. This is just a project we've been working on, and I'm going to show you a few ways I use this plugin. Now the plugin we're going to be talking about is called Better Search and Replace. It's basically a find replace plugin, obviously, as the name would suggest. So if you go to plugins, add new, all you need to do is search for Better Search and Replace, and you'll see here if I type in a B, that's the first thing that comes up. So this is a totally free plugin. You can just search it right here in plugins and install it and activate it. As you can see, I've already got mine active. So there's a bunch of different uses for this plugin. Now I first started using it primarily because we needed a way of, I manually migrate sites. So when I migrate a site from our dev server to a live server, at least I used to do this. Now we don't do it as much, but we still do it sometimes. But when I migrate a site from our dev server to a live server, I started using this plugin to update all the URLs. So anywhere like inside the WordPress database where there's references to our dev URL, then I use the Better Search and Replace plugin to remove all of those and update it with the live URL. So I'm going to just show you quickly how we do that one, because that's like the most obvious use. So if you go into Tools, you'll see Better Search and Replace right in here. And this is basically the page. There's not a whole lot to it. So when I update URLs on a site, I pretty much always do it the same way. So we'll start with the dev site URL. That's what we want to search for. In this case, it would be bay32.imdwebsites.net. Now you'll notice I did not add the HTTP, the www, or any trailing slashes at all after that. If you do that, it's more likely to cause you problems. So just try to add the naked URL with no www, no HTTP, no slashes. Then we want to put in the live site, so we'll just put yourdomain.com. Whatever the live site URL is, you put that right in there. Again, no www, no HTTP, no trailing slashes. An important part is you do need to select the tables you want to search. So if you click the top one here, then scroll down to the bottom, hold down the shift key. While you do it, you can select all the tables just like that. And then for these options here, I almost always use this configuration, which is don't make the searches case insensitive. So they're going to be case sensitive whenever you search anything. This is particularly important for text changes. And then run as a dry run. If you do this, then it'll tell you how many updates it would make, but it won't actually make them. So if you are nervous about doing it, you might want to practice first by doing it as a dry run, but then you'll need to uncheck this before you can actually get it to perform the find replace. And then replace GUIDs. I don't know how much this actually matters, but I always check it just in case. So any database columns titled GUID will be skipped. I just check it to make sure that nothing gets skipped, basically. Honestly, I have no idea if this has ever did anything or not, but that's just what I do. So you run that search and replace, and that's going to do it. Now, if I were to run this right now, it would lock me out of the site, so you got to be careful with this particular one. But once you do it a few times, it's pretty straightforward. I've did this probably literally like hundreds of times, and it works every time. It's super easy, super simple way to update all the URLs on your site. This is also can be good if you're moving your site just to a different domain name, which can happen sometimes. And another thing that is kind of along these same lines is you can use this to replace, say that you're adding an SSL to your site. You can use the really simple SSL plugin, and that's going to update all your links to HTTPS, but sometimes there's ones that are hard-coded in the database that don't get updated for whatever reason. So you can actually use that, I've did this before, to update all your HTTP to HTTPS links. So any like stragglers out there that are still in your database that didn't get touched by the really simple SSL plugin, you can just hard update those to HTTPS links. So that's actually come in handy for me a few times. This won't update your theme files. So if you've got really hard-coded URLs, like actually in the theme files, you're going to need to still go in and edit those. But anything that's in the WordPress database, you can update that way. So that's a really useful use for this that you can do with that. Now, as far as some other creative things that you wouldn't necessarily think about, here's one of them, probably the best time-saving ones. If you've got a child theme or some type of theme that comes with like a predefined color scheme, it is super easy to totally customize your color scheme without having to go change colors in a bunch of places. So I'm just going to show you quickly how you do that here. You can see this dev site we're working on has this kind of blue color. Now if you wanted to change this, all you really need to do is go into the code inspector, and you can see right here this is the hex code for that blue color. So we'll just copy that, and then we'll paste it into here. And then here, you'll just put the hex code for whatever color you want to replace it with. So if we wanted to do red, we'll just replace it with FFOOOO. And that'll give us a red, and then we just need to make sure those are all checked, and run the search and replace. And you see on smaller sites, this relatively goes pretty fast, usually not longer than like 30 seconds. Sometimes with bigger sites it can take longer, and I've had times where it took so long that I had to run it in a few chunks, because you'll see like sometimes this WP post table can be huge, so you might need to run that by itself. I've definitely had to do that before. Anyway, search and replace is done. You can see it's searched 12 tables, made 253 updates, and if we go over here to the live site, and I'm just going to copy this so I can change it back afterwards. Usually you should see it right away. Sometimes caching can make this a little tricky, especially with Divi. Yeah, so you see it's not really showing us all of them, but if you, I did this earlier in a test and kind of had the same problem for whatever reason. It was like caching some of these other ones, but yeah, basically it will change all these. So this one will change, this one will change, this one will change here. You just need to make sure you don't have any weird caching stuff going on there. But anyway, so this is super easy if you wanted to, like, change your color scheme from red to blue, or if you got a couple different, you got your main color and your complementary color, you can easily go in and change those. And you just need to, you might have several different shades of blue like I've got here, so you might want to go in and, yep, you'll see this is, even though it looks close, it's a little bit different. So you could go in here and then run a search and replace, get that all changed to red, and then you're not going to have to manually go through and do all this. So unfortunately this isn't a great demonstration, but I did this before just as a test, and it did pretty much the same thing, and like 5 minutes later then it showed up correctly. So this does actually work. It's just some weird like caching thing. I don't know exactly what the deal is with it. Try it one more time, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so that one is a great use. That has saved me so much time. It's not even funny. It's really you can take a child theme and really heavily customize it by totally changing the color scheme with just in a couple minutes. So that one is huge. And then I've had a lot of times where we built a site for a client and they like the site but they wanted to just change some colors. Super easy way of doing that, because otherwise you got to go into Divi or whatever theme editor you're using. I would have to go in and manually change it here, manually change it on the drop downs, manually change this one, manually change that, manually change the background here, the shadow here, so that's a ton of manual places, and most of these are all in different places where we would have to be changing that color. So super easy to do that all in one place in just a couple seconds, and I promise it really does work. I'm not gonna go to all the trouble to try to figure this out, because honestly I'm just gonna switch this back anyway. So then you can switch it right back if you don't like it, so you can just go FFOOOO, and at some point this will be updated again on the front end of my site. I don't know how long it'll actually take. Just wait a second here. Okay, so that's that. Here's another one I get all the time. They want something is not capitalized correctly. Like, say they have a company name like Able Plumbing, and they'll say like, anywhere in the text where it says Able Plumbing, we want it to be all one word and the A and the P capitalized. That's another great thing you can do here. So let's say you've got Able Plumbing on your page like that, you can go through the whole site without having to hunt these down individually and replace it to meet whatever kind of requirements they have as far as how they want it formatted. So again, this one comes up all the time. This is kind of a crappy example of it, but this comes up all the time, and that's a super nice one to be able to fit in right away. And kind of playing off that, I've got a lot of times people have asked me about adding like a trademark symbol. So they might say, like, anytime you see Able Plumbing, add a trademark symbol to it. So again, we would go search for Able Plumbing because we already updated all of those, and then we would change that to Able Plumbing, and then we'll just throw in the ASCII key for that. Oops. And this would, by doing this, this would make it so that everywhere on the site where it says Able Plumbing, it would add one of those little trademark icons to it. So again, that one is like super comes up all the time. You could also do it for adding a bold tag. So say you want to make it bold anytime you see Able Plumbing on the page, you could just do that. So that's another common one. Or you could even add a link in here. So you could actually go through and add a whole link. Link back to the home page every time you see Able Plumbing or whatever. So super versatile plugin. You know, clients are always asking for this kind of stuff, and it sucks because, like, you know, you got to go through every single page, try to find every reference to Able Plumbing, and then condense it together. Well, chances are, you know, we're all human, and ton of times it's easy to skip over a couple of these, and then you got to go back and do it again once they find it, and then everybody's, you know, salty about it. So super good way to just go through and get everything done in one hit in only a couple of seconds. So you know, there's basically unlimited types of use for this, but specifically for making like site-wide edits to stuff, it is just so good. If you master using this plugin, which is really simple, it can be a little scary at first because you are messing directly with the database, but it's really pretty simple to use, and once you get comfortable with it, you'll probably be able to see that there's all kinds of different applications for it. So let's just go back one more time here and see if this fixed itself or not. I promise this really does work. Okay, yep, see, so eventually it does kick in. So now we see we're right back to where we started. So we were able to, and this is another thing you can do too. Maybe you just want to see how it looks with a different color scheme. Well, super easy. Like if we wanted to change this to all these blues to aquas, we could do that in just a couple minutes and then see, do we like it better with aqua or do we like it better with blue? You know, so really handy to be able to do that kind of thing. So again, this is a totally free plugin, and this is pretty much the only page you'll ever need. You might run into some trouble with WordPress memory if you have a super huge site, but that for how much I use this plugin, that pretty rarely ever happens to me. So highly recommend, especially if you do edits for clients and stuff like that. Great plugin to have. So definitely check this one out, and stay tuned because I've got a ton more cool tips like this and more plugins I want to highlight. So make sure you click that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. Thanks.